there was a time, and maybe there is a time now with a lot of the Marvel kind of comic book stuff where um, we overemphasize the external. And I think, there's a place in storytelling for putting those pieces together. And if it calls for it, then yes, I get in there and I train and try and embody the character physically. But the real selling point is that it only means something if someone can do something with it. I'm just learning myself. I mean, I'll always be learning. So, as much as I would give advice, I'm sure there'll always be something I can learn from another actor as well. It never stops. But I would say that I would suggest that actors write um, and live. That's the big one. Um, and the two of those kind of go hand in hand. I mean, when you write, you put yourself into worlds in a way where you have to work out the psychology, the characters. You have to empathize in order to make, good writing work. Just like when you're embodying a character. Um, and to get to different places that you need to get to as an actor, as a performer, um, you need to understand the authenticity and the truth of living. And so that's why I say, write and live. Because, we have to write from our own experience. But when we explore our imaginations as well, we can go to places in our mind, and when we write, we can go to places that we can't necessarily just easily access. But when you're writing, you're stretching to kind of empathize with the resources you have. You know, if the character has that you're writing about, or the character that you're performing has lost, you know, a valued pet. It may not be the same pet, but maybe you had something like that happen in your childhood that you can kind of transport, emotionally those emotions from one experience to another. Um, if you've lost someone or a relationship or a breakup, it might not be the same scenario that you're creating when you write. But when you write and really trying to understand the characters you're writing about, um, and I say write because yes, these things all apply in the world of acting as well, but in the process of auditioning and in the process of trying to get the part and finally acquiring the part, there can be gaps, and the number of parts that you're playing may not give you the adaptability or the number of experiences that you would get if you broaden the range of your experience in your life by both going out into the world, meeting people, going different places, having different experiences. Again, those things aren't always practically, available to you day to day. So you have to mix and marry those things with your ability to kind of transpose what you do have and as much experience as you can get in the world, and building that into what you're writing about, talking about, and sharing, or at least expanding on the kind of characters that you'd like to play, the kind of characters that you'd like to embody, or the kind of experiences you want to understand and then maybe convey and portray. And hopefully all of those things begin to come together, because it's all an exercise in understanding how to be authentic. Because if you're just trying to manufacture a sense of horror for something you have never empathized with in any way, shape, or form, you've never tried to write about it or tried to, get out there in life and experience and talk to people who've gone through experiences so you can begin to grasp what it is you're trying to tackle in a particular role, you're going to have a harder time, if not an impossible time, getting there. So that's why the living of life, the having of experiences, the learning how to make those emotions accessible and available to you so that when you begin to put them on the page or in front of a camera or on the stage, you have a store of experience to draw from, both from inside the imagination and from the world you truly and really live in, and you can create something very authentic by doing that. And that, I think, because at the end of the day, you don't want to see someone act. You want to see someone that you really believe is having an experience or is experiencing something that is real on camera. And then you believe it. And that's what really good acting is. Well, I guess if you'd asked me that, when I was a kid, when I started all this, it would have been, a strong looking character. But I think even then I knew, and even more so now, I believe, that the idea we had in the 80s, or a lot of the films we watched back in those days with, Stallone and Schwarzenegger and so on and so forth. Although we do seem to be coming back around to this now, you were looking at a package that on the outside represented strength and capability. And you were interested, though, in what they would do with that, because ultimately a strong character is defined by what they do, the bravery they're willing to act upon, the integrity that they're willing to maintain in a tough situation. And so because film is a visual medium, sometimes it can help to have a strong looking frame on that character. But sometimes it's even more impressive when the last person you would expect, the one that doesn't look like the hero, does the most heroic thing. Because ultimately, that is what makes that a strong character, in heroic terms. It's the person that's willing to, operate with a sense of integrity, a sense of fortitude, moral character, strong moral fiber. The person that is willing to move into the uncomfortable position and do what needs to be done. And I think, there was a time, and maybe there is a time now with a lot of the Marvel kind of comic book stuff where we overemphasize the external. And I think, there's a place in storytelling for putting those pieces together. And if it calls for it, then yes, I get in there and I train and try and embody the character physically. But the real selling point is that it only means something if someone can do something with it. So you have to embody what that physical element represents, or it's kind of meaningless. And in fact, the more important thing, and you can look at this if you go even further back in Hollywood, the heroes of the 60s and 70s, they weren't bulging with muscles everywhere and saving the day. They were saving the day looking like your average guy. And so it really depends on the story and what kind of character it needs. And at best, even when those physical elements are necessary, they're only as good as the first few seconds it takes to find out whether or not that person has the strength or the stuff on the inside to sell it. And so for me now, it really doesn't matter. What matters is, what does the character require? And how do you find the strength inside that character when you know which way you have to go with the physical part? And then you've got the best hero, when you've got the right combination, whether they need big muscles or whether they don't. And that's how you create a hero.